All right, so for this work I'm doing right now, I am going to be working on blocking out some boundaries. I've got this nice level here. This is just the Synty demo level for the dark fantasy content that they've got. And what I'm doing is when the player spawns in, oops, come on. When the player spawns in right over here, and then at the moment there is no boundaries. So the player can just jump right over the cliff. We will take a look. Dun dun dun. All right. So here we've got our player, and I can just walk off the cliff. Whee! Boop. And we don't have any fall damage right now, but whatever. So we don't want the player to just run off the cliff. We don't want them to get lost. And so we need to put in some blocking. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here. There we go. No, I don't want in the prefab. I have set up an object called barriers to put stuff in. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to create 3D object cube, and I am going to call it barrier wall. Sure, why not? And I want to move it over here. I'm going to actually grab the player's position, and I'm going to apply that to the cube so that I get it within my view. And for the rotation, yeah, 0. It's not exactly squared off because this bridge isn't square, but that's okay. I'm just gonna quickly rotate it slightly so that it's a little more squared off. And let's move it out a little so I can see it better. And let's take a look at the size of this. We don't need this big, huge cube. So let's rescale it. Drag it down nice and thin. We want it to be tall though. And we want it to be a little bit wider. All right. And that's not bad. Let's position it. Let's raise it up since it doesn't need to be that far down. All right. It's tall enough. I mean, it's certainly tall enough. It's a bit taller than it needs to be, but it's not going to make a big deal if it's too tall. And let's just move it back here. We can see that the angle is still off slightly. And that's a little bit better, I think. And now what I want to do is, let's see, how does it look? Yeah, it looks fine. Let's take a look at, we got the mesh, we got a box collider on it, and let's just hit play. And let's see if this all by itself is going to prevent the character from jumping over the wall. All right, so we've got it there. We come up to it. Oh, look at that. We can't jump through the wall. Wonderful. But it's ugly. And during the actual gameplay, for the finished product, it will be invisible. But right now, it is not invisible. So let's just make it a little more user-friendly. Got the mesh render element is lit, material lit. And what am I going to get if I just open this up? Lit material. Nothing special, so I really don't want that. I want something else. So let's come up here. Oh, we do have a materials folder for the card background. All right, so I want to come back here to my barrier, and I'm going to just grab lit, and I am going to bring lit. No. There we go. Materials. Let's drop a copy of lit into materials. And then let's go to the materials folder. Let's rename this one to barrier wall. And over here, we are going to take a look at our barrier wall. We still have lit, so we're going to drag barrier wall over here. And now let's do a quick edit on our barrier wall material. And let's change the color so that it is red. And let's crank the alpha way down. And source alpha, type, beta, height, occlusion, mission. I don't want it to glow. It does not receive shadows. Metallic surface type is transparent. No. Preserve specular. And let's come back here and let's bring this back up some because I want to be able to see it. All right, I think that's pretty good. So we changed our surface type to transparent so that we can have it see-through. Now I have something that I can work with. And the red is really it's blending in too much with this background. So let's switch it to a nice green color. I think that's better. And now that it's green, we can see, let's keep it on the little darker side. All right, I think that's pretty good. Now, I want to turn this into a prefab because I want to be able to make edits to this in the future. And I don't, Control Z. Control Z is your friend. There's my prefabs. And I want prefabs. I want to be able to make edits to this prefab in the future. Once we are game ready, I can delete the mesh entirely. We don't need the mesh. It'll just be invisible, but we will keep the box collider. And so that way the player will bump into it, but they won't be able to get through it. And we don't have that mesh being rendered out. We could also keep the mesh, just have it disabled so then you can come in and you can re-enable it when you need to make edits to the level. So it's nice having it as a prefab. That way we can just duplicate this like mad and we don't really care. So I am going to stretch it a lot more. And I am going to move it. Let's move it back quite a bit. Oh, okay. Yeah, it doesn't need to be that big because I'll show you why it doesn't need to be that big in a minute. So let's shrink it down to about there. And then let's move it back over to right where it starts to drop, and then bring it back over to the wall. And I think that's pretty good. The player can jump up on that little piece right there, but I think that's fine. I don't really care. And so I'm happy with that one. Now I'm going to duplicate it, which can also be done with a Control D. Control D. I'm going to drag this over here to the other side, and we will put it right about there. And then I am going to rotate it ever so slightly like that. Nice. All right, I'm happy with that. And then let's Control D, duplicate, switch back to positioning. Let's drag it out here in the middle. And let's just rotate it all the way around. And let's give it a little bit of angle, about like so. Scaling, we are going to bring it in because we don't need it to be that big. That looks pretty good. And now I want to bring it back. I don't want the player to go back behind the bridge. I don't want the player back there. And so I'm going to stick it just like this. And then let's see how this looks. So that'll create a nice little block. The player won't be able to go back there. And then actually, I think what I'm also going to do is I'm going to, what do I want to stick over there? Let's take this. Oh, that's a whole big piece. Never mind. I don't like having just the open spot though. So, yep, that's all one piece too. Complete with the barrel. What else do we have laying around here that I can just toss in? I don't see anything I like. It looks like everything's prefab kits. Yep. So for now, we're just going to leave it like this. In the future, I'm going to block this off with debris so it makes sense why you can't walk back there. But for now, let's hit play and let's confirm it's doing what we want it to do. It's important that you hit play on a regular basis and just test out what's going on, because otherwise you'll spend a lot of time doing something and it's not going to produce what you want, and then you just have to undo it, which is what happened to me yesterday when I was working on these little barriers and I had not created a prefab and I had deleted the mesh. And so I had these invisible objects that I was trying to place and position and resize because I wasn't forward thinking. Yep, that works. I'm happy with that. And so I ended up deleting them all and starting over. So because when you're trying to line these things up, it's really helpful when you can see them. All right, so we're good with that. We know it's working. It's achieving what we want. Let's duplicate. Drag it out. Let's bring it back in. And let's see. So we've got some overlap, which is what we want. You don't want holes in between your walls because then the player can find a way to jump through it. Let's rotate it around so that we kind of match up with the bridge, and let's sink it down into the bridge. And I like how when you sink an object through another object, it kind of, the line shadows are along here. So then you know that you are into the bridge instead of out of the bridge. That's a really nice feature to have. And let's just back it into here. Now, I don't want it so extending down so far. I want the player to be able to walk over into this space. So we are going to go back to our scale. We are going to scale this down some. You do have to be mindful of up here. The more I scale down, I'll start creating a wedged gap. It might be possible to jump through. So I just want to keep that in mind when I'm doing this, that if I scale it down too much, if I bring it all the way down here, the player's going to jump through. Right there, that's enough for the player to jump through. And I don't want the player to do that, so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And then I'll just back it up some more so that it's right along this pedestal down here at the bottom. I like that. And the player's not going to be able to jump up high enough to get through there. So that's looking pretty good. All right. Now I'm going to come back here to this one up above since it's not rotated. And I'm going to Control D this one and drag it over here, bring it down. And let's see where we're at. Okay, so I brought it down too much, which is just fine. You can always just reposition it. Bring it over here. And I want to push it out. But now I have a nice little gap over there that I don't want. But that's okay because this cliff wall here, I want to block the player off from going down the cliff wall. So I'm going to angle this out a bit. And then I am going to draw it over. I don't want to go too far out. I think that's probably pretty good. Now let's take a look here. Go away. I've already got prop bar. Oh. SM prop barricade 01. Huh. All right. So, what is... Oh, those are the barricades. Oh, I see. Okay, so I've got barriers, and then there's the barricades. The barricades were the prefabs that came with the scene, and I was getting confused on the barricades versus the barriers. Whoops. That's fine. There we go. That looks better. Now, there is a little bit of a gap right there. The player can't jump through that. They're completely blocked off, so it's not a big deal. A perfectionist, which I sometimes am, would say, yeah, that's a problem, but it's not a problem. I know it doesn't look great, but it works. Now this barricade, though, over here, this doesn't work. It's sticking way out. So let's scale it down. About like so. Move it back over here. Move it over here. All right. We got our nice wall going on. Double check these. You do want to be careful when you're overlapping. You don't want to create scenarios where the player is having weird experiences. For instance, if this barricade here stuck out a little further, you could walk around the barricade and then get stuck trying to come back over into the pathway. That would be a problem. And so, and actually, that's a good point. If I keep this horizontal and then just sink it down into the ground, you got to be mindful right here that you're not lowering it too low that the player can jump through it. And then I can rotate this. It looks like right about there. And then bring it out slightly like so. And then bring it in about like that. That's pretty good. I like that. And then with this one, I can bring it over so it's intersecting, but then draw it back out a bit. So really, it's really pretty close to each other. Not like that. And there's a small gap there, but the player is not going to be able to jump through that. And does this barricade have any rotation on it? This wall, it does. So let's just pop that rotation. Oh, whoops, wrong rotation. Control Z. Yeah, that's fine. Let's bring it in a little more. Now let's see how it looks. Looks pretty good, I think. And so then the player can walk up to there. Now I don't want the player to jump over that rock. There's some ground there and some tree roots, but I don't want it to be a problem. So I'm going to scale it back down some more and then move it back into position. Just like that. Oh, this is so much easier now that I can actually see these things. That's pretty good. I like that. Control D. Let's bring it over. Let's rotate it around. And let's take a look. Yeah, so rotation a lot. Let's bring it out like so. And then let's move it over here. And let's see what we were working with. Okay, so that's pretty good. The player can jump down there. We've got a gap there, so let's just take that out really quick. And then we've got a lot of overlap, so let's walk it out a bit. That's looking pretty good. And then this positioning over here is a bit much. Gap's not a big deal, but let's just pull it out. All right. And let's go ahead and shrink it a little more. About that much. And then let's move it back into position. That's pretty good. Maybe a little bit more. I'm being overly picky. Well, really. All right. So here's what I was thinking. The player can walk up over here, and then they can walk up here to this cliff. I don't want, and I could put a barricade that extends along the cliff so that they got this nice little box they can walk into, and they can see the cool view. But it's also taking a lot of work. And if I were professionally releasing this game, I would probably go through that effort. But this game is a class assignment and will not be professionally released in this state. So I am going to make it simpler on myself. Let's just stretch it out and then move it into position. All right, that's pretty good. Let's double check our overlaps here. We got a gap. So then let's bring it in. So that's pretty good. We're hugging that wall there. I'm fine with that. Cuts into the tree, and I'm okay with that too. All right, good. Control D. Bring it out. Take a look from the top here. Okay, got a little ways I can bring it back into right there. That's looking good, but it's too tall. So let's sink it down to the ground. Let's put it right about there. Now I'm going to come over here and I just want to make sure. Yep, it's fully in the ground. I don't want them falling through the bottom or anything. So that's looking pretty good. It's bisecting the tree. It overlaps with the other barrier. Now, one question is, can the player jump up into the tree? So there was an issue with the game where the player could jump up walls. And I believe that's still an issue. So that's something I need to take into account. If we don't have that fixed, and I don't really want to engage in combat just yet. So I'm just going to walk along the wall here. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm not getting stuck. I can jump out. That's great. Right there. Okay, I can't proceed. Ooh, that's looking good. Oh, there's some enemies. Don't want to walk into them. Okay, so here's the tree that I was worried about. So, okay, I can't jump up into the tree. That's good. Did I get stuck? Nope, I'm not stuck yet. All right. Jump on the rock. Jump on the tree. I can't. Oh, there we go. Can I get higher? Can she do it? Doesn't look like it. I don't think I can jump up onto those upper branches. And I can't. Oh, there. I can jump, but see, I can't jump high enough to get over the barrier. And of course, the easiest way to resolve any concern is to simply scale it taller. All right, now I'm sure there's no way they're going to get up onto that upper branch. And you might be able to trick it, jump over to here, jump over there, but I don't think you can jump far enough to pull that off. So I'm not going to worry about it. And now we're going to just come over here and change, Control D to duplicate. Let's run it out to here. Swing over. Look at our alignments. Bring it in. All right. And our positioning. I think our positioning on this one's really good. So I'm happy with that. Nice. Control D. Bring it on out. And let's take a look here. I'm going to need to back it up a little, I think. Bring it in. And now we're going to rotate. Rotate, rotate, rotate. All right. And let's pull it in. Okay, we're overlapping. If somebody wants to tell me an easy way to reset these so that it's centered again, so it sees the new rotation and gives me the, so it goes normal. There's probably some key I hold that does it. Local versus something, I don't know. There's probably some key combo so that these things will move on their, be easier to position. Anyways, I am digressing. And let's shrink it because it's too big. And then let's fidget with it to get it back into position now that we shrink it. We got overlap? It looks like we've got overlap. Good. And I think that positioning is pretty good, actually. Yeah, I don't want to scale it bigger because I don't want the player dropping down into this hole that would create if I stretched it out. So I'm going to just run a barrier up this way now. Cool. I am going to scale it up some more because that tree there. Now let's Control D to duplicate. Let's rotate it around some more. About like that, I think. And then let's position it. Went way too far. Bring it back out like this. Okay, so I think that's going to work. Let's see. We got good overlap. In this case, I can actually push out a little bit further. Oh, no, because I don't want that hole there. So we're going to keep it right there. I am going to push it this way a little. Make sure we still got our overlap. We do. Okay, great. Control D to duplicate. Let's rotate it around. And then let's position it to where it needs to be. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's take a look at what we're working with. So, okay, we got a big hole right there. I don't want them jumping into that hole. And I'm just going to bring it back in like so. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm actually going to bring it in slightly more. Yeah. About like that. Now what do we have for a hole? A small hole. All right, let's bring it in a little bit more. Okay, that's pretty good. Now, the player works their way through town. They come over here. Oh, there's a pile of dead cows. Where's the beef? And then they can walk over here into the house. And there's a little candle back there, but we could put a little box here, a little prize. You unlock a new card. It could also be that if you maneuver around onto these back rocks, there's a little box right here you can get. And the box contains a card or a power up or something. And then you'd be able to see it through the house. And then you'd have to find a way to maneuver your way to get it. Probably what I'll end up doing is removing this little piece here. And the tombstones will be another barrier that they can't get through. So they'll have to maneuver through the house, jump onto the rock, open up the loot box, head back around. Nice little something for them to explore and experience. All right. No, I want that. Control D to duplicate. And let's bring it over. That is pretty good right there. I'll move it out a little bit more. About like so. Double check. Oh yeah, that's great alignment. And I'm not losing too much play space. Wonderful. Control D to duplicate. And ooh, we got some room to work with here. So this is an area where we got to be careful. We're coming into this hole. And see, we're pushing up into the rocks a little too much. I don't like that. All right, come on. So, no, give me back my barrier. I want to shrink that barrier a little bit. And then I'm going to move it back over a little bit. Yeah, not enough. Need to shrink it more. Yeah, that's probably pretty good. And then okay, so we got a gap going on there. So let's just fix that gap. And that's a good job on the gap. Looks great. It's coming over here to the rocks. Yeah, I'm covering up more of the rock than I want to, though. I know some people would say that I'm being too nitpicky, but when you're designing a game, you really need to be. I find it really annoying when people don't put in just a little bit of effort to create a better experience for the player. You definitely want to have a good experience for the player if you want to actually succeed in this industry. Let's go right there. And let's check out our lines. We got a little bit of gap. It's not going to make a difference, but I'm going to wipe it out anyways. All right, that's better. So now this rock can be jumped on. You can walk along this rock. I like that. And you can drop down there behind the hangman's table. The little, what's this stage called? It's a stage, but I mean, what's it? They just call it prop something. Stage. Look at that. Prop stage. All right, whatever. Come back here to my barriers. And let's see how we're doing. I like the height. That's good. All right. Control D to duplicate. And this one we are going to rotate it around quite a bit. Like so. I am going to shrink it down a little. And I'm going to raise it up. That's better. Now let's put it into position. Oh, see, when you change your angles, you find out you're not working with what you thought you were. That's better. Right about there. Double check our overlaps. Yeah, we're doing good on the overlaps. And yeah, I really like that positioning. That's nice. Let's just Control D to duplicate. And let's bring this one in. And this one, I suspect we're going to want to rotate. So let's get over top. Rotate it around. Actually rotate a little bit more. And reposition it. Like so. We got, how are we doing on that overlap? So it goes back to that whole, I don't want them snagging on the overlaps. That's going to be a problem. So we're just going to fix that. Like so. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. And yeah, I'm happy with that line. But we are running into, I got a lot of it down the cliff. And up here on this rock, the player might be able to jump over. But since I got so much material here I'm working with, I can just raise it up. Control D to duplicate. Bring it out. And then let's rotate it around. Like so. And let's see how we're doing on the overlaps. Oh wow, that's not bad. Cool. I like it when things come together. I like it when a good plan comes together. And right about there. You gotta change your perspective. Never know what you're gonna get. Mama always says, life is like a box of chocolates. Well, I don't like nutty chocolates. I don't like walnuts. Yeah, I think that's good. Now this is sticking out a bit, but I'm not gonna worry about that. Control D to duplicate. Let's bring it in. And let's rotate it around. Like that. Yeah, I want to bring it around more. And then let's push it in. Bring it over. Let's change our perspective to see what we're working with. Okay, that overlap is fine. I don't care if it's sticking out on the back side. I don't want it sticking out on the inside. So that's looking pretty darn good. But that tree is really tall. What are the odds of the player being able to jump up and get past these barriers? I don't think so, but I don't want to take that chance. So let's scale it up and let's raise it up. All right, I think that's good. No way the player's jumping over that. And I'm going to actually scale this one up also, just so that I don't have to worry about it later in play testing. It's like I already know it's been dealt with. And then this one over here is too far away. Player cannot jump over there, so that's not an issue. Sweet. And I'm happy with that, so let's Control D to duplicate. Let's move it over here, move it over here. Yeah, that's pretty good right there. But now, I got a big huge hole, which is just fine, because I am going to rotate it around. About like that, I think. Yeah, that's pretty good. We will know in uno momento. Oh yeah, that looks good. All right, I'm happy with that. Maybe draw it out some. Looks like I got a lot of crossover going. Nope, I got a hole now. Easily remedied. There we go. That looks nice. Oh, there's still a hole. Wow. All right. Let's just draw you out a little more. How are we looking now? Pretty good. Let's switch to the scale and punch it out like that. Now we've got overlap. And we are covering this cliffside here really well. I do think we need to bring it in slightly. I don't like having a gap right in here. I know a player can't fall through because it's really small, but I don't want any risks. Don't want to have to fix it later. All right, that's pretty good. Control D, duplicate, bring it back over. And let's rotate it out like that. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then let's walk it in. See what we get. Okay, so there's a hole there. I don't like that hole. So I'm going to bring it in more. That's pretty good. All right, we're still overlapping, yes. Top perspective. Let's make sure that we got another. Oh, that's tricky. Yeah, a little bit of a gap. I'm just going to scale it. All right, gap's taken care of. Yep, that's good. And there's a little bit of a hole right there. Player can't get in there. I'm going to call it good. Might just bring it a little bit because I'm being picky. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Control D to duplicate. And let's see what we got to work with. Okay. Bring it in slightly. And let's give it a rotate. About like that. Lock it out a tad. Bring it back in. And we are not overlapped. So I'm going to bring it back here. And let's just take a look. All right. That's good. I'm happy with that coverage. That will work. And actually, I'm going to stretch this one out more. About that much. Let's see how that looks. Bring it over to about there. Walk it over to about there. Check the lines. The lines look good. And now we got a nice chunk of coverage down here and back here and back. Okay, good. That'll work better. Control D to duplicate. Let's bring it in and then rotate it into position. The more you do this, the better you get at it. Ooh, this is going to be an interesting setup, actually. Let's see what... No, I don't want to scale. Let's see what we get. All right. Do we have our overlaps? It sure looks like we do. Let's check from the top. Yep, looking good. Okay, now they're going to... Oh, this is a nice hole to put something in. Is there a path for them to follow to get there? No, there isn't. It's blocked off. I could destroy that crypt and punch a hole through the wall so they can access that hidden spot back there in the back. maybe I just put a prize inside the broken crypt right there. But it would be kind of cool to have an ability to grab something back here in the back. I'm just not sure how I would pull that off given this setup. So I'm not going to worry about it for right now. This does pose an interesting problem though. If I don't block off up here, the player can come up here, jump down, and they're stuck. I don't want them to get stuck like that. So I'm probably going to have to wall off along here so that they can't jump down. Or open this area up so if they do come jumping down, they have the ability to walk back out again. So I suspect I probably will end up punching a hole in this wall so they have an escape path through. But that's not for now. That's for later. All right, I am going to save this level and let's play. See how it's going. How's it going? We don't know. Oh, it's so much better when you can actually see them. I like that. Actually, here. Let's do a quick little game demo. Boom, boom, boom. All right, so we've got our cards here. And if you click on one, it pops up so you can see what it is. Bone Crusher, deal 6 damage. We're working on the hovers. Currently, you left click in order to bring it up, and then you right mouse button to play the card as it says. So right mouse button on the card. Now left mouse button, select a target. Select the health bar here. This skeleton has 10 health out of 40. We need to adjust the 40 to match with current health, but just click on the bar. And now his health just dropped to 4. Or her health, I don't know, I can't tell. I need to end turn. Now I wait for the enemy to play. My health dropped to 30. I don't know why enemies get to cause so much damage and I get to cause so little. That's something I'm going to bring up. Ooh, Executioner's Edge. Deal 7 and apply bleed. Let's pop that on because 7's going to kill him. And that turns dead. And yeah, I know, we need to despawn the enemy when they die. That's still on our list of things to accomplish. I'm going to jump over here. And I'm just going to follow this path along. I can't go through here. All right, that works. Can't get through here. That's good. Follow the path along. Some dead cows. Give me some ribs. Oh, see, so I can drop down into this space. I don't want the player to get stuck in here. And so then the player can jump out of that space. Not get stuck. Okay, and the player doesn't get... Okay, you can get down into that little space there. But you can jump up. Can you get out from here? Yeah, you can. You can jump right over that root sticking up. There's another pile of beef. If somebody's hungry, I like that. All right, so I can jump back into here. That looks good. Continue jumping along here. See, that branch is blocking me. And that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. Can't do anything about it. Cool. I'm happy with that. Come up on stage. So then I'm back here to this branch. Okay, so I can jump on the branch, but see, I've got that block high enough. You can't do anything. So that's good. Jump up here. Here's the path. All right, I'm happy with how that's laid out. Come along here. Looking good. This was that area where I raised the barriers up. I need to fix the camera so it can't clip in. Okay. not possible to jump over. That's great. Now what about that tree? Can I jump any higher on the tree? Doesn't look like it. Perfect. Player's not stuck anywhere. Excellent. Here's another tree. I can jump on the branch, but the barrier is nice and high. Can't do anything. Good. Hoorah! Oh, nice. You can walk back here. That is wonderful. I might make this space slightly bigger, but at the same time, you can't get through. You're trying to figure out, what do I do? There is just enough room to get in and out. That is wonderful. So you look back there, you'll see a treasure box, but you'll try to figure out, how do I get to the treasure box? Can you maneuver through here? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So I glitched through the tree on the roof. That's fine. It lets me get up there. I don't care. All right, it'll work. It will work. And now I'm at the end of my barrier. I thought I had more. Nope, I haven't wrapped it around yet. Okay, that's cool. I can work with that. I'm happy. It's working. Now, because I set all these up as a prefab, I can simply go to the prefab, open asset in context, replace, unpack. I don't want to unpack. Let's just do this. Stretch this up a bit. Here's our prefabs. There's my barrier wall. Open up prefab. And I can turn off the mesh renderer. And then I exit the prefab. All my barriers are gone. It is wonderful. Where am I at? Okay. Now, if I select the barrier wall, oh, I can't see that either. Oh, wrong one. Huh? There we go. So there, see, I can see the barrier wall, but it's invisible. I only have the outline of the one that's currently selected. If I come back here into the barrier wall prefab, turn the mesh renderer back on, exit the prefab, now I can see them all again. Perfect. And I can see how much I've got covered. Third of the way, I'd say. Maybe a quarter. This little area over here is going to be a little tricky because I'm going to have to do a bunch of small ones to make it circle around. I had thought about trying to do this with a spline and just running a spline along, but this will work. Thanks for tuning in.